What is up, guys? You got NotTheWorst here, bringing another Black Desert online video, and today we're taking a look at the latest round of the PvE buff session. We are into phase 2 at this point of the overall PvE buffs that are coming to the live servers. So these were implemented on the Global Labs last week. If you're not familiar with either the sheet we've been tracking these on or any of the prior buffs that have been up, I definitely recommend checking out some of the earlier videos where we kind of go into the specifics on each of the changes. If you have, I did last video on this, add a revision sheet so you can kind of see what's getting changed each one at a glance if you want to just get that information. And then, of course, you have the individual tabs with all of the specifics of what was changed as well. That being said, for the update on the 17th to Global Labs, I was a little bit, I guess, surprised would be the right word, with what we got. I was expecting to start seeing more of the protection changes and accuracy buffs and those sorts of things get implemented. But based on the statement they made with that, they're going to start making those changes alongside the PvP buffs, which when you put 2 seconds of thought into it makes sense. Obviously, those types of impacts aren't just, those types of changes are going to impact not just PvE, but PvP as well. So it looks like as they begin to change those things with still working the PvE aspect, the PvP changes are also going to be implemented alongside those, from what they said, beginning the next week. So we should start seeing that hit the Global Labs the following patch after this one. We'll just have to see how that pans out. Things can always change. Timeline could get pushed. So who really knows? As far as what was changed this week, the only other thing other than damage adjustments that were changed, there was only one case where there was a cooldown update, and then aside from that, they were changing the attack range on different skills as far as like the actual area that the damage is impacting for several different skills. So if you see your class listed on there and you're interested which one, then you definitely want to check out the tab for that class so that you can find out exactly what was changed for that. But just kind of a brief overview for what we saw. You'll also notice there were 3 classes that had their buffs dialed back a little bit. Evidently, they were ruled to be a bit out of line. Not sure I entirely agree, but it hasn't been out really long enough, in my opinion, to kind of draw that conclusion. Just a little bizarre to see some of these rolled back so quickly. And what that exactly that means with how they were outperforming what the metric was. Unlike when Suck Megu was nerfed, however long ago that was now, 6 months ago or something, where they kind of gave us like, hey, we see X amount percentage of players playing this class and performing over X percent from what our expectations were, so we're dialing back the damage. They were pretty transparent with like what those metrics they were looking at were, so it kind of made sense, or at least you could make sense of what they were doing. They don't give us that in this scenario. They just went ahead and pulled back damage on Awakening DK, Awakening Wizard, and Succession Lawn, as you'll see in the list there. All of those got their buffs not removed. They weren't rolled back to prior to the PvE buff rounds. Just the damage amounts on several of their skills was brought down a bit from what the previous amounts were, so they're no longer on there. When you do if you go to look at these, just to give you an idea, I kept the current amount is not what it is on live servers right this second prior to Global Labs. I actually kept this as the root amount of what it was originally before they started the PvE buff rounds, so it's not a comparison of what you see today versus there. The idea here being when these PvE buffs are done, we have like a where we started to where we finish kind of thing with that. So just keep that in mind if you're looking at like Wizard or Lawn or DK. With that, the original value is prior to any PvE buffs. So that said, we have Awakened Sork, which did get some damage buffs in the attack range that we mentioned. As we said, Awakened DK got damage buffs reduced. Just Awakened Succession was untouched, to note. Tamer, both specs damage and attack range increases. Meiwa had some attack range changes as well as Valk, both specs for each of those. Suck Kuno got some damage and cooldown reduction as well. Suck Ninja gets the attack range adjustment. Both Witch and Wizard Succession had additional damage increases on several skills that were added. Awakening Wizard had his damage buffs dialed back, as we said. Succession Striker gets attack range increase. Both versions of Mystic get some damage and attack range added in, which is pretty cool. Mystic's looking like it's going to be in a pretty good shape after this, especially Awakening's getting a lot of much needed attention currently. And then, as mentioned before, Lawn's suck damage buffs were reduced from their previous state. It did get some attack range increase. on a few skills, and then Awakening got more damage and an additional AP buff, self AP buff on that as well. So those are the changes for it. If you want specifics on each one, just check out the tab for the classes that you want to look at, or if you hadn't seen this before and you want to see some of the other ones from prior, they're all in there. They're listed alphabetically, so you can check it out. If you haven't checked out the add-ons that are going to be hitting live servers everywhere except KR on Wednesday this week, then we have a kind of a breakdown of how the new add-ons are going to work. I did a video covering that last week when it was announced. Those did go live on KR last Wednesday, so the rest of us will be getting them in just a few days. Coming up here as well. Things I'd like to see for the Global Lab hopefully this week as far as the PvE side of it goes. I know they've just been talking about protection changes, and obviously that shakes up PvP like significantly. I think the add-on changes also have some pretty significant PvP implications as well. The other thing I want to see, and I didn't necessarily see it mentioned, they keep talking about like attack buff and like evasion debuff on skills. Like if you're a Corsair, you have like a plus 9% accuracy buff, right? Things like that. Or Awakened DK has a minus 15% evasion shred. That's difficult to land on every mob because the AoE is so small, but things like that, and kind of balancing that out across classes. Something else I didn't see directly stated, and it could have just been that I missed it, but I would like to, is also the AP buff disparity hopefully they address that as well. Just looking at classes like Sage, where you have like a lot of options for a ton of additional extra AP. When we look at like true endgame grind zones, Darkseeker's Retreat, which we don't have yet, and like Tungrad Ruins, which has an 1100 AP cap, which is unobtainable on like I think every class, if not every class, then almost all of them except for a few. The difference in like AP values there, you can be running like lower gear and be a Sage, or like Wusa has a 20 AP self buff, things like this, where you're just running like 1080 total AP, and then other classes that just don't have access to any of these are like 50 AP lower in some circumstances. The add-on changes will help that somewhat to kind of solidify that portion, but hopefully it's not just going to be like attack evasion instances they look at, and they also think about like how this is impacting with these self-buff effects as well. That may tie into passives, but I also didn't see anything mentioned about passives, so we'll just have to wait and see. That's just personally what I'm kind of hoping to see when we get the next round coming up this week, and we'll cover that in another video when that comes up. So that's going to be it for this one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, so you get notifications when new videos go live. And if you'd like to catch me playing live, there's a link to my Twitch page in the description down below. You can jump on over there, drop a follow so you get notifications for that as well, just as a heads up for those of you that do check out the Twitch. Obviously, we've got Thanksgiving in the U.S. This week, so I actually have most of the week off of work, so my streaming, I don't have really a set time. I just kind of stream when I can, but it'll be probably earlier than it has been since I don't have much work going on, and then obviously I won't be streaming like Thursday because family, Thanksgiving, that sort of thing. So that's going to be this one. That's going to be it for this one. I want to thank everybody for watching, and I will see you next time.